All right, it's 2:00. My friend Chris, what are you doing? Sweet Aroma Coffee House.
Sweet Aroma. This was my makeshift office today. Been making stuff happen here. You can only drink so much coffee before you need to hydrate with water. Unreal water.
There's several things that also happen. The other thing, which is how much hydration you take in, you also have to visit the restroom multiple times throughout the day. And one thing that you don't want to do is have to visit the restroom while you are presenting a webinar or a 5-step buyer consultation. Because in the middle of that, if you're like, hey, I know we're on step 3, but I've got to go to the bio break. Yes, chat is working. Welcome, everybody. Super excited to have you guys here. So today we're going to share with you what we call the tried and true, right? So our company is a company of systems. That's what we do. We try to follow systems that we know give us proven outcomes, because when we do that, we get predictable results. And in our business, Chris, do things happen in our business that sometimes feel unpredictable?
Yeah, sometimes, most times.
Most times. So the more things we can control, the better. So what we try to do is we wake up every day, focus on the things we can control. And one of the things that we can control is making sure that we have a really proven, viable way to deliver the value proposition that is your real estate agent services, right? So the way we do that, we basically follow a format. We call it the 5-step buyer consultation. And I mean, 5 is the right number because anybody can memorize 5 steps. It's not the 37 step. It's not 22 steps. It's not the 6 different versions of ways that you might do it. It's 5 steps. It's 5 steps every time. I'll tell you guys, I started doing this when I was really, really active in the business. My goal was to do this at a minimum twice a week. I wanted to deliver the value proposition that I offered and give somebody the opportunity to say yes or no, you're hired or you're not. And so when we started to really look at, well, what are the things, what are the key components that we deliver, and why is there a process to it that gives us a predictable outcome, we came up with this solution. And I'm excited about this. This is one of the things that I think really sets our team apart and really sets our company apart is the way that we deliver this. And Chris, you've been in the business. How long have you been in real estate?
Oh gosh, since 2006. I think I'm on my 16th year now. I've been doing this longer than I've been doing anything else in my life.
16 years is a long time.
16 years. Yeah, you talk about, one of the things you talk about when you're going to go into this is that you set us up for success and in not knowing just what to say. Because I think a lot of people get wrapped up in what do we have to say? I don't know what to say. You give us the tools on what to ask. And when we get really clear on asking a lot of questions and what this 5-step buyer consult has done for all of us on the team who actually utilize it, there's some resistors for a while. I resisted it for a long time because I thought I had my way. And I thought I was cool because I knew what I was going to say. But asking the right questions and having a proven pattern to follow has just been a game changer. And anybody on the team will probably admit to it. Even Nick Green.
Yeah, especially Nick Green. He's been he's been a real example of somebody that embraced this and just started knocking them down, right? So, I think that what I want to preface this with is that if you've been watching and paying attention to the 6 Passport to Production series that we've been rolling out, the very first one that was the 4 agreements, which was the 4 agreements of a professional real estate agent. And one of the agreements, actually agreement number 3, is that you're gonna do the 2. And we talk about do the 2 as in a consultation. You're going to deliver a consultation to a willing party, right? You're not going to corner somebody in an elevator, to somebody who has agreed to hear your value proposition and give them the opportunity to make a decision as to yes or no, will they hire you? And this is the format for a consultation. Now, I'm going to preface this with letting everybody understand we have a 5-step buyer consultation, which is what we're going to go through today. This is actually translatable into a seller consultation as well. And there are some nuances and some variables, but when you master this, this is the foundational component of understanding how to deliver a killer consultation that is going to result in 90% or better of the people that you meet with saying, yes, I hire you, and signing the agreement, which is the most important part, because you're not hired until you sign the agreement, right? Until you actually get the agreement signed. The equivalent, right, is going to Home Depot, putting on an orange apron, stocking shelves all week, and expecting to get paid at the end of the week. You don't get paid until you get hired. So that's the deal. So
kind of foolproof too, Matt. When you get to this, and as we go through this, there's no way they're not signing when you go through this.
It never happens.
And if they don't, here's the caveat: if they don't, you didn't want to work with them anyway.
Right. It never ever happens. Right. So they that's the point, is that you're giving them the opportunity. So I'm going to start out with this, that if before you have a consultation, the very first thing that you need to have is you ought to have some of this basic information, right? That's kind of the basics of what qualifies it as a consultation versus, it just randomly a meeting, right? You should at least know who you're meeting with, where they live, what their situation is, right? What their phone number is, their email address. You should have some general contact info, and you should know how they found you, right? That's pretty much all you need to go into a consultation. The outline that we're going to follow, and these are the 5 steps, guys. Basically, I want you to all think about it as if there are 5 steps to this. Each one starts with essentially a question. It's a question. It's an open-ended conversation piece. That's how you're going to memorize it. You're going to memorize these 5 things. And we're going to talk in depth about why they are what they are, why they have to go in this order, when this order is critical, and why you have to spend time on it. Even if you think they already know, even if you already know, you have to spend time on it. It will set up your entire transaction for success. It will set you up and your relationship up for success. And you will actually, as a realtor, spend way less time in the weeds navigating things that you could have dealt with up front if you just slowed down and did it. So the very first thing we want to do is we want to do some rapport building. Now, here's how I like to define this. You are not trying to make a new friend at this point. Okay. You are not trying to make a new friend. So somebody's called in, right? Chris, somebody called in, the phone rang, and they said, hey, my name's Bob, and I'd like to go see 123 Main Street. I see that it's on the market. And Chris, you're going to have a quick conversation with him. Tell me about that house. Tell me what you think about it. Why do you think that's important? Hey, people like you, Bob, we find it's really valuable for you to come into the office and spend 20 to 30 minutes with us in order to figure out what your priorities are so that we don't waste your time and we provide the most value. He says, you know what, Chris, that sounds like a good idea. I'm just getting started. I'm moving here from Texas. I don't know this market. You sound like a good guy. I'm going to meet with you. So now you have a meeting and Bob shows up. Now, are you and Bob friends? No, you're not friends. Does Bob even care about you at this point? No, in fact, Bob might even be slightly irritated that you didn't just jump in your car and go meet him at the front porch. So you actually are starting at a deficit in the relationship and the minute he walks in the door. Now, here's what most real estate agents do. And this is the cardinal sin. This is what most real estate agents do. They know that because they're intuitive. They know that they're starting at a deficit and they force Bob to come in. And so they ingratiate themselves. They become overtly gregarious and they do everything they can to get Bob to fall in love with them. They do everything they can to get Bob to like them. Oh my God, I really want him to like me. And so I want him to like me so much. I'm going to tell him all the great things about me. And I'm going to talk about his kids and his dogs and where he went to college and where he went to high school. And the whole time, you know what Bob's thinking? Bob's thinking, so what? Who cares? What about me? So what? Who cares? What about me? We just all have to accept it. That is the inner monologue when you've asked somebody to give you their time. They're waiting for you to deliver value. So building rapport is not the equivalent of making a friend for life. You haven't earned the right yet. So building rapport looks like, I want to humanize the consultation. And we're going to humanize the consultation. And by the way, we do these in person. We do these over Zoom. The first 1 to 2 minutes of this conversation, maybe 3 at most, is getting to a human level. Okay. Now we talk about this as step 1 because you can overdo it. You can also underdo it. If the person comes in and you just jump into, Bob, great to meet you. Sit down. Let's talk about your house. Where do you want to live? Blah, blah, blah. You sound like a sales guy. You sound like the only thing you care about is selling Bob a house. And Bob wants a consultant. He wants an advocate. He wants somebody who cares about him. So when Bob comes in, his inner monologue says, so what, who cares what about me? Your inner monologue says, Bob, I want to let you know, you don't have anything to worry about. I'm going to help you out here. So Bob, tell me a little bit about where you're from. What made you interested in this town? You're just going to build a little bit of rapport. Couple of key questions around understanding who Bob is. Do you have any kids? Where are you from? Some basic stuff. That's it. Chris, what do you think? Like, how do you like to build rapport when you've got a new customer console?
It's a great question, because John Maxwell says this: nobody actually gives a crap how much you know until they know how much you care. And unless I make that human connection with them, and just like you said, ask a few questions, I'm breaking that ice with them. And this is where I've actually made the mistake a couple of times early on in the career, where they would say one thing and then I would want to dump on them all the similar things. Like you said, I'm a high emotional character. I need people to like me, or else, I don't want to be in the relationship. But actually, the more I took an interest in them and just asked them questions and asked them more questions about that, it actually made sense. Because again, they don't actually give a rip.
Yeah, you bring up a really great point. So they walk in the door, Chris, right? And Bob comes in and he goes, "Oh my God, Chris Grant, nice to meet you." And you say, "So where are you from?" And he says he's from the same hometown as you. And you all of a sudden you want to play. Oh, you want to play the game, man. You want to be like, "Do you know so-and-so? Do you know so-and-so? He went to high school here. Oh, where do you work?" Like you just dumped the value and went into the wrong thing. Now, the rapport building is get to common ground, table that. You haven't earned the right to be a friend yet, right? Table it, get to common ground, and then get past it. Rapport building, it is a crucial step, but it is crucial that it's handled properly. If you ingratiate yourself or you are overtly friendly, the client actually loses value pretty quickly. If you provide a common ground and then you table that and you get down to business, they're going to say, "Okay, cool. I think I'm working with a professional here." So the step two is easy, right? So once we've established that, okay, hey, Bob, you don't have anything to worry about. Chris, you don't have anything to worry about. I'm not going to bite your head off. I'm not going to harm you. I'm a person. I've got kids. I've also got a dog, whatever it is. Built a little rapport. I'm going to ask you, Chris, I'm going to say, "So what brought you in today?" Super open-ended question, okay? Every single consultation should start with that question. Now, a lot of people say, "What do you mean? That doesn't sound like a presentation." It's not a presentation. It's a consultation. And a consultation and a presentation are two very different things. We need to understand what's important to the client, what's important to them. So there's a key component to each of these. Step one is humanize the relationship. I'm not here to sell you something. Step two is motivation. This is the most important step and the most important question. So when I ask the question, "What brought you in today?" sometimes you'll get a raised eyebrow and they'll say, "Well, I'm here because I want to see 123 Main Street." And you go, "Well, I know that." Or they say, "Well, you told me I couldn't see 123 Main Street until I came in here and met with you." And you go, "Yes, I know that. But what I'm really getting at is I want to try to understand, why is it that we think 123 Main Street might be the proper house for you? What I really want to understand, what's going on in your life that makes now a good time to buy? Tell me a little bit more about that. What's happening in your life?" And what you're really looking for, why is now the time that they're looking? What made Bob pick up the phone at that moment in time? What's important to them? Motivation is not, "I want to buy a house because the market seems good." That's not motivation. Because when you really test somebody's motivation and the market changes, are they still motivated? No. What you're really trying to get at, and the key to this 10 to 15 minute dialogue, Chris, you said it, it's asking questions. The number one mistake that agents make when they are inside of a consultation is they talk about themselves. "I'm number one. I sold houses here. You're going to love working with me. I know everything about houses." Wrong, wrong, wrong. They don't care. So what? Who cares? What about me? So what we're doing in the very beginning of this consultation is we're really diving into the needs of the customer and what's important to them. So, Chris, what are some kinds of things that you hear which are key motivational cues when you're doing a consultation? What do you hear from people?
As far as their motivation?
Yeah, what are some examples of real motivation?
I just dealt with it now. I have seller and a buyer, and their motivation is that, they've had this big house for a long time. They're looking for something that's a little bit more manageable. I have a couple of people that are, they're growing family. Met them in the office last week, and they're looking for more space. So it's either space, they're moving up, or moving down, one or the other. And one thing I want to hit on too is on the motivation. If you don't get to the motivation, really what's important to them about the process, this process, this journey does get a little squirrely and unpredictable. And if you don't know that, you can't remind them of something that was important to them when stuff is hitting the fan.
That's right. So here's how you found motivation. When they say, listen, we really think now's the right time for us to sell. It's time for us to go and relocate. We've been looking at property down in South Carolina. And you say to them, okay, so what would happen if you didn't find the right house? And they say, I don't know. Like, they have no other option. That's motivation. So what would happen if, you're about to have another baby, you're in this 2-bedroom apartment? What would happen if you didn't find the right house? We have to find a house. Like, you've nailed it. It's because they've outgrown it. It's because the house has become too much. And this is super important as you help them make decisions through the process, because as we know, the real estate process is emotionally laden. There are a lot of things that drive people to make good decisions, some that make bad decisions. And our job is to advocate and counsel when they have to make decisions. And so when I can say, hey, listen, I understand we're frustrated, we're not getting that credit for the home inspection that we thought. However, the alternative would be that you stay in that 2-bedroom apartment until we can find something else. It's up to you, but which one is more important to you? And then they go, thank you for reminding us, because what we really want is to move, not to be right about this particular issue, right? So this is something that we experience and we see over and over again. Getting the motivation also, more important than anything, it truly aligns you as the advocate with their intended outcome. No one ever enters this process simply because they want to buy a house. That's not motivation. Motivation is really about them getting something that they want in their life. So that's what you're trying to find.
I think one of the other things too is it helps if you're working with multiple clients, and this is like a triage, right? When you're in the Rose Wright, critical care nurse for years, you can triage the most important of the ones that need to take priority. Clients are all important, but if you have somebody that says, I'll buy whenever versus the one that says, we need a house tomorrow because I got dogs, kids, and where we were renting is going out from underneath of us. So you need to triage what are the most important high priority clients and getting them like out in front of it in a big way.
I think that's fantastic, Chris. And I think that section of the consult, again, you as the agent counselor are doing nothing but ask questions. We're not looking for anecdotes. We're not looking for stories. In step 2, you are asking questions about now you're starting it off with, so what brought you in today? And then you are engaging. We are here. We think we need a bigger house. What is it that you're looking for in a house? Tell us about what that's going to do for your family. Do you imagine that your house is going to have a yard? Is that important to you? Is it important for you to be walkable? Is it important for you to be within commuting distance to your job? You're just really getting down to the brass tacks of their perfect vision of what the outcome is. And that's an important thing that too many agents skip over. And by the way, we go back to what we talked about earlier. For all those agents that are jumping in cars and meeting people on the front doorstep, I want you to imagine for a second the experience of a customer who meets an agent on the doorstep, who walks in, shows them a house, they walk out, and that agent's like, here's my business card, call me for everything. Hey, I'd love to be your agent. Oh, by the way, sign here. Oh my God, right? Versus the agent that says, actually, before we do that, I'd really like to figure out what's important to you. And now what's that customer? By the way, as you're doing that, asking those questions, how's the customer feel? How are they feeling through that process?
I think like they're heard too. They're validated. Like you want to, Ed uses the word, I want to acknowledge or validate. I think when people are acknowledged and validated, you open up a line of trust in a deposit that you can actually withdraw from later on as the professional.
Yeah, they're really feeling like, wow, this guy's interested, right? And by the way, they still don't know who you are. You haven't told them anything. You're not telling them your stats. You're not giving them glossy bound presentations. You're not doing any of that. You're just sitting with them, hearing them, hearing what they have to say, what their process has been like. Sometimes when we're in this consultation, they sit down and they say, I've met with many agents at the front door of properties. You're the only one that made me come in here to sit down. And you go, you know what? I promise I'm going to give you value. And that actually leads you right to step 3. Here's the beauty of this process, right? Step 1, we're building rapport and we're humanizing it. Step 2, we're getting to motivation. Step 3, here's the question. So, Chris, tell me, how much do you know about the real estate market, the business, and how it operates? Big open-ended question, right? How much do you know about the real estate market, the business, and how it operates? We're asking that big open-ended question, and that's step 3. Remember, you're going to memorize this because this is your opportunity to show off, ladies and gentlemen. We all want to do it. Everybody wants to be the one that says, look at me, I'm the best. Let me tell you all about me. But we don't do it right. The vast majority of agents don't do it right because you make it about you and not about them. Step 3, the goal is educate. Educate. So I gave you 2 words so far. What was the first word? Build rapport, right? And get really clear on the relationship and humanize. Step 2, motivation, right? We're getting to motivation. Step 3, educate. So step 3 question, how much do you know about the real estate market? And now we're asking that question. Now we have a design, of course, because they're going to say, well, you know, I've done this 7 or 8 times, or they're going to say, this is our first time. It actually doesn't matter. The follow-up dialogue from how much do you know about the real estate market is what I like to do is take about 15 or 20 minutes with your permission and just kind of walk through a couple of the key things that are going to happen as we work together. And these are really, really important things for you to know. The most important thing that you can have really deep understanding on is what's going on in the market. Because as you enter the market, the information is going to change. It changes every day. New houses come on the market, new houses go off. And let me tell you a little bit about what we're seeing. So now, once again, framework of 5 steps in the right order. You've met the person, you've humanized the relationship, you've gotten clear on the motivation, and now you're going to educate them about why are you the agent that they should work with? What is the value that you provide? And you're going to give it to them for free. Here's the difference between the way we do it versus the way it's done with other people. We actually do it by giving them the value for free in the consultation. We're going to give it to them and give them a real taste of what it's like to work with us. That's what step 3 is. It's not, I sold the most houses. It's not, look at my branding and marketing and how much better it is than everybody else. It's not, look at my social media followers. That's not step 3. That's got nothing to do with it because what is the client thinking? So what? Who cares? What about me? Right? It's not, I sold a house near you. I sold this house or I sold, it's none of that. How much do you know about the real estate market? Well, you know, I'd like to tell you a couple of things that we're seeing. Inventory continues to be on the decline. We're on 36 months of inventory decline in the market, which means even though you may have seen some headlines in the media that say that the market has been softening and that things have been loosening up and that we are on the precipice of the next real estate crash, the reality is here in Connecticut, we have not experienced anything like that. In fact, we are still outpacing new inventory by under contracts by almost 2 to 1. Last week, in fact, 961 new homes went under contract and only 460 homes came on the market, which means as a buyer, it's still a very, very competitive market. Now, interest rates did go up and they did get really, really high. However, they've started to soften and predictions are that interest rates are going to land somewhere around the 5.5% to 6% rate for the remainder of the rest of the year. Now, that's something that what we need to do is get you in touch with a mortgage professional in order to help you make those decisions and help you analyze what that's all about. But be prepared that the market of today is still very competitive for a buyer. Do you have any questions about that? Boom. That's your market of today language. Now, for some of you who are watching this, maybe you don't feel like you have command of the market of today that well. If you don't, that's actually the job. Make sure you go out and get yourself educated about what's going on so that you can have this conversation. Chris, what do you find people respond to when you get into that market analysis?
I think the first thing that happens is you're taking them off of the overall media and the news of what's happening across the country and bringing them back into what's happening right here. So I think what you talk about with us every week when we hit over, not just the data, but how you deliver the data is not overwhelming them, but just kind of bringing them back to reality. So that response is like, oh, I didn't know that. You hear that a lot. Yeah. Oh, I thought it was this. I heard that. And it's true in some parts of the country. It's just maybe not true right here.
And what's also important about that is you're opening the door for them to ask the questions that they actually want to ask, right? Which is like, well, do you think prices will come down in the next 2 or 3 months? Do you think I can get a better deal? Do you think that now is not a good time to buy? Right? You want them to ask those questions now because you are really, again, investigating, consulting them on whether this is actually the right time for them to enter the market. Very few real estate agents are going to take the time to do this with every client that they meet with. But we do that because we follow systems and models that give us predictable outcomes. So we do and ask this question exactly this way every single time. And then sometimes you're going to field some questions about the market. Do you think interest rates coming down is going to create more inventory? What do you think is going to happen? And of course, you always give them your best professional analysis. Well, I'm not an economist, but based on the information that I read and based on what we see boots on the ground every day, here's what we think could potentially happen. Now, here's what's important for you to understand. In this process, because of the nature of the market, it is still considered a seller's market, which means you will have to compete, which means that you may have to make more offers on properties and not win as many. It means you may have to be prepared to make an offer over asking price. It means you may have to make an offer that includes an appraisal waiver contingency. We'll get to that later. It means you may have to put some consolations in regard to an inspection. The reason we're doing this, remember, first time we've met them, but we're giving them a ton of value and a ton of insight. And the other thing we're doing is we're setting up expectations for the process. Very frequently, somebody will sit there and say, well, I'm not doing any of those things. And you go, it's no problem. You don't have to make those decisions today. I just want to make sure that you're prepared for the market that we're entering into. That's all we're doing. So once you've covered the market of today, you're giving them the opportunity to engage in it. Then you're going to say, okay, cool. So if you've got a good handle on the market, tell me a little bit about your plans to purchase. Do you expect that you're going to be buying in cash or are you going to be getting a mortgage? What's your expectation around that? Now, I always ask that question the same way because I never want to be surprised, but I do also want people to understand that in the climate today, it is very common that people will buy in cash. And so sometimes people will say cash, no, we're definitely getting a mortgage. You go, okay, no problem. That's awesome. What I'd love to do is make sure that we connect you with a mortgage professional that you trust, someone that you've vetted, and somebody that you know is going to give you really good counsel. Obviously, in our team, we work with some people that we can recommend, and you're free to go and work with whomever you like. However, these are important things for us to get established up front. So if you haven't been pre-approved, that's going to be the next step. So are you currently working with a mortgage professional? Again, getting it out of the way, making sure that it's handled up front before we step foot in a house, right? We don't want to go showing them houses to find out that they aren't pre-approved or that they don't have realistic expectations about what it's going to cost or what the rates are going to be or closing costs, all of those things. So we need to make sure that we're setting up and establishing the guidelines for moving forward. So this, by the way, really important. This is not an opportunity for you to give them homework. This is real important, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of real estate agents don't understand what the pre-approval process is. They believe that this is somehow protecting their time. It is not about protecting your time. It's about empowering your clients. Be careful to not fall in the trap of saying, I don't want to work with anybody who's not pre-approved. Why? Why would you not want to work with them? The probability is they're going to get pre-approved and they're going to be fine. And then if they are pre-approved and they're fine and you've empowered them to go through that process, you're actually doing the job of being a good advocate and consultant. So I hear that all the time, like, oh, I don't meet with people unless they're pre-approved. And I say, well, send them to me. Send them to me because I'd be happy to help them go through that process. I'd be happy to be the counselor and the professional that they look to for real estate resources and guidance through that process. I'd be happy to be the one that answers those questions.
You know, how much more too, Matt, when imagine the trust that's built when somebody, they find out they're not approved right now, or they're having trouble, and you send them to a qualified guy. I know, Jason Kildoff, you send it to him, he's going to guide them along that process. And if they're not ready now, they will be ready in the future. And how much more did they believe in you and trust in you when you brought them down that road? It's, again, everything is about is expanding on that trust in the relationship, so that you're making deposits that you can one day have a real hard conversation if you need to.
If you need to. And I would also just frame this as, like, ultimately in the real context of what the job of being a real estate agent is. This is the product that we deliver. We deliver the counsel and advocacy and consultation that gives our clients the tools they need to make good decisions. That's our job. That's what we do. And so in this part, how much do you know about the real estate industry? We're going to talk about the market, and then we're going to give them options around the mortgage. We're going to give them some choices. We're going to give them some framework. We're going to make sure they understand how it works. They are inevitably, especially if you've got a first-time buyer, they're going to start asking you questions. They're going to say, well, how much money do we need to put down? What's the percentage rates? What kind of loans are there? And you're going to go, what time out? So here's why we're here. This is why I asked. The best person for you to talk to would be a professional who can counsel you the best at that. Very, very important for us to line you up with somebody that you trust to give you the best resources and information. And certainly we've got some people that we work with who would do a great job for you. So that is critically important in that second step. Now, one of the other things that we need to discuss before we move on is this thing called an appraisal. Now, do you know what an appraisal is, right? Now, again, if it's a new customer or a brand new buyer, they're going to say, something about the value, something like that. And you need to explain it to them in the very first meeting, because that is a thing that could derail the transaction and come as a surprise. And so in that very first meeting, what do we say? Here's what the appraisal is. When the bank decides to lend you money, they're going to want to make sure that we haven't overcommitted on the value of the property. They're going to want to validate that. And so what the bank does is they require that for every deal where they give money out to somebody to buy a house like you, they go and get a third party, non-committed party who's not invested in the deal, and they make you pay for it to go out and do an evaluation on market value. That's what an appraisal is. It's a third-party perspective. Now, there are lots of things that come into play with appraisal, and we're not going to get into the details of it, but you do need to understand that this will be part of the process when you get a mortgage. And that appraisal, the ideal scenario is that appraisal is going to come in equal or greater than the value that we've negotiated on the property. However, sometimes the third-party evaluation of that property comes in less than the value of the property that we've negotiated. And in the case that happens, we're just going to have to be prepared to have a conversation about how you want to move forward. An appraisal is not a real vision of today's value. It is an opinion of value, but it is the way that the banks establish whether they're willing to lend you the money that you've applied for. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there, but you do need to know that this is a part of the process that's going to happen. So now you see how I frame that for them. I frame that so that they understand what could potentially happen, what's likely to happen, and what's the best case scenario. So what happens when the appraisal comes in low in a deal that I'm working on and I've sat with somebody and given them that consultation? What happens? How does the client respond? Oh, my agent told me this might happen. I'm not panicking because he actually anticipated it. And it sounded like when he told me about it, there was something that we could do. So I'm not going to freak out. I'm just going to call and I'm going to ask, hey, remember that thing you said? The lender just said this happened. What do we do? Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem. Here's what our options are. Remember, we're consulting and framing. So we've now educated them on the market. We've educated them on the mortgage. The next thing you need to know before we move forward on the transaction is that every single home that we buy is going to have some set of issues. They all do, because there's no perfect home. Even a brand new home built tomorrow is going to have some stuff or a punch list of things that didn't get done exactly right, or loose handles or something. Now, the way we address that in the real estate transaction is through the process of a home inspection. And the good news is that most of the time, when you negotiate to purchase a house, you also negotiate for a period of time that's going to allow you to go in and check all the knobs, check all the switches, look under the hood, make sure the heat's working, make sure the AC is working, all the windows open and closed, check all the stuff. There is no perfect home. So inevitably, there's going to be a bunch of stuff that comes up, but it's kind of like a grab bag. I want you to think about the home inspection process and understand that there's probably about 200 things that show up on just about any home inspection, and you just don't know which handful you're going to get. And some of them are a big deal, some of them are not a big deal, but they're all homes built in the same area around the same time. And so there's very rarely massive catastrophic things. That's really what we're doing the home inspection for, is to make sure that the grab bag of stuff that we get isn't something that's red light, stop, we're not moving forward on this. So the way that works is we hire a full-time professional home inspector who comes out, who does this for a living. They come out, they go through everything in the property, and then they deliver you a report. Once they give you the report, we're going to look over it and make sure that none of those real deal stopper issues are in there. And if there are issues in there that really make us kind of question whether or not the deal is the way we expected it to be, there is an opportunity for us to revisit with the seller whether or not this is still a transaction we want to move forward on. So it's an open door opportunity to get in and make sure that we're still comfortable with the deal. That usually happens within the first 10 to 14 days. Now, that said, because it is a seller's market, because it is the market is the way it is, and it is as competitive as it is, you should be prepared to understand that many people are buying homes and waiving home inspections or offering to purchase them as is. That is the competitive standard that we're up against. Now, I'm not going to ever encourage you to do anything that you're uncomfortable with, but I am going to tell you that through this process, once you get comfortable with it, you may get to a house where you're willing to take that on. Many people at this point in time will say they would never do it, but you just need to understand that that is the competitive standard that we're up against. So any questions about that?
I think too, just to mention the as is, I mean, that was an addendum that was put out a while back. And when agents got really smart about that as is addendum, it was like, you'd put that in saying as is, and it's really not a benefit to the seller. It's more of a benefit to the buyers to say as is, right? Because it still says in that addendum, you could do your inspections. And if you don't like the color of an outlet, you could choose to walk away. So there was a protection in it, but a lot of people, a lot of agents, a lot of sellers got really privy to it. So I think having that kind of conversation with them about what the difference is between as is and just completely waiving inspections is something they need to understand. You used to say too, is like, you're never going to buy a lemon because you're protected with inspections. And so
that's right. You're really trying to give the buyer at this point just a framework for how the process is going to work. And remember this, the key to this, guys, this is where you actually get to do the thing that you want to do, but this is a framework, which is, what does every real estate agent want to do? They want to show off a little bit. They want to sell the person on why they're the right one to buy. But what have we not talked about so far, Chris? We haven't talked at all about my list of sales or my accolades or all the awards that I've won, or I'm not walking in there wearing all my medals from Keller Williams saying, hey, look at all my medals and how great I am, because it doesn't matter. That's not what they're there for. Nobody hires me for that. They want to know, are you the person that can effectively counsel me through this transaction? Can I trust that when I put my faith in you, that you know the answers and you know what the outcomes are, and that you can give me good guidance around the decisions that I need to make? So we want to cover these key things. Now, the last one, and this is the one that everybody wants to skip over, and I promise you, when you get comfortable presenting this, you will never skip over it, because there is no reason to skip over it. Real estate agents undervalue the service they provide, and that's why they're afraid to talk about commissions. And that's why they're afraid to ask for buyer broker agreements. But you can't be afraid of it. You can't. You got to come out with it. And so our last question I ask is, do you know how I get paid? Now, why do I ask that on step 3? I want to educate them. And I want to know if they know or not. And you know what's real interesting? Even people that have done this many times, sometimes they say, I'm pretty sure, I think I know. And I say, well, here's the first thing I want you to know. The first thing I want you to know is that I'm not going to send you a bill. The way the real estate industry has been set up, and by design, is that real estate commissions are actually paid to the seller's agent that is hired by the seller. The full commission gets paid by the seller to the seller's agent. Now, because of the way our industry is designed and we share information, long ago, brokerages, Keller Williams, Century 21, Coldwell Banker, all the brokerages decided it would be great if buyers could have representation to protect their interest in a transaction too. Because the way it used to be was the seller's agent got all the money, and then they ran around and told everybody that they should buy that one house. And there was no buyer representation, which meant that buyers had to fend for themselves. So the brokerages knew that that wasn't good for the industry. And they said, what if we did this? What if we all agreed that we share the commission and we give buyers the opportunity to also have professional representation? And if we do that and we agree to share all the commission, then everybody's got to do it. You're either in or you're out. And all the brokers decided to do that. And we created what's commonly known as the multiple listing service. And the multiple listing service is the aggregation of all the homes that are for sale by any brokerage, small brokerage, big brokerage, little, doesn't matter. We are all in one place. And if you ever go on Zillow or you go on realtor.com, you're just looking at a reformatted version of the multiple listing service, which is provided data by all the real estate brokers into one single place that gives a buyer access to those properties, but also gives a buyer access to professional representation. Now, I get paid no matter which house you buy, whether you buy a house listed by my company or a house listed by another company. So I don't really have any vested interest in driving you toward one property or another. If that property is participating in the multiple listing service, which 99.9% of homes for sale are, then I'm just here to support you in what's best for you. So I get paid by getting half of the commission that was promised to that listing agent when they put the property in there. Does that make sense? They always say, yeah, I get it. I get it. I say, so the good news is there's no surprise bill. You're not going to get a seat. I'm never going to ask you for a check. I'm not going to, put you in a corner and say, you owe me any money. You just get all the years of experience that I provide, and you actually get to take that for free right now. Now, the downside is when the time comes for you to sell, you'll have to pay me, and that's okay. Right? And they all laugh and everybody says, yeah, that's right. So here's why that's so important. In this process, in this step 3, what you just did is you completely disarmed all the things that somebody might be concerned about. And you didn't do it by selling them anything. You did it by educating the customer. You gave them the knowledge and information that they needed in order to make a good decision. Now, through the process of doing this, and I've probably delivered this consultation 1,000 times, I have never had anybody at the end of this, when I say, does everything make sense? Has this been valuable for you? I always ask that question. I have never had anyone say anything other than absolutely. And in fact, more often than not, what people say is, this is the best time, and I've gotten more information here than I have in looking for houses for 6 months. And it's 15 minutes of your time as a real estate agent, committed to the client, committed to their knowledge and their education, that 100% solidifies moving forward. Now, how do you think, Chris, how do you think the client feels at this point? We've just built a little rapport. We've learned about them. We've learned what's really important to them. We've gotten to their motivation. And then we've just taken a lot of time to really explain the process. How do you think they feel at that moment?
I think they trust you, right? They haven't had this kind of interaction. We know statistically that most people are online looking at houses 6 to 7 months before they ever talk to an agent. And usually the first agent they talk to doesn't care about this, and they just jump in the car, go show them the house, and they build those. So there's no value to that person because they know they can pretty much get anybody to do that. When you've just gone through just these first 3 steps with me, I already feel like I'm more connected to you than any, and I start to feel like, oh wow, this guy's got his best my interest at his heart and on top of his mind.
And you've also, as the agent, you've massively set yourself apart from those agents that are running out and opening doors, haven't you? I mean, if you're sitting in that office or you're on a Zoom with me and I'm delivering this value proposition to you and you're hearing it and you're being asked questions and you're answering and we're engaging like that, and you're thinking about the last 2 agents that you met with that ran out and opened a door for you, the crazy part is those agents, this is the part that every real estate agent out there needs to hear. Those agents that jumped in the car, drove out, opened the door, and did the whole walk through and try to sell them while you're in the house thing, you actually did more work than what I'm doing through the consultation. You actually devalued your time because you weren't slowing down to give the value. You thought what the client wanted was to go and see a house, but what they really want is advocacy and consultation. And so I'm just turning around and saying, I'm going to give them what they really want. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah, the other thing too, and I've had this happen where I tried to stand hard on them coming to my office, and look, if they were an hour away, they really didn't have an interest. So, just shy of going open the door, because I've done both. I've run to open the door, and sometimes that worked, mostly not. What I found is that I set that appointment with them in the area that they are interested in. I at least know that. And we're going to set a time to meet in a coffee shop for 30 to 45 minutes before we go look at that house. I am going to get the consult in. I'm not hardcore on making it come to the office. So I want everybody to hear that too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole other class, isn't it, though? Is like how to book the consultation and not be divisive and not be argumentative, and make sure that you, again, are in service, right? So I always played the switch cost game with people when they would say, well, listen, man, I just really want to see the house. And I'm like, I actually really want to show it to you. Believe me, trust me. Every ounce of my energy wants to go show you this house because I want to earn your business. But what I've learned is that it's better for both of us if we slow down and we take the time to figure out whether I can actually serve your needs. Because what I don't want to be is a door opener. What I do want to be is your professional real estate consultant. Now, that's the difference. And if you only want me to be a door opener and that's all you're looking for, I probably can arrange to help you with that. But I just personally, that's not how I operate. And so it's just a whole different kinds of conversation. And a lot of agents are afraid to have it because they're coming from scarcity, and they recognize that, well, if I don't go give this person what they want right now, they're never going to hire me. And the answer is they're never going to hire you anyway. So just be prepared to move on. So we've just spent a lot of time really learning about the client. Now, this step 4, guys, this is what we call give them what they came for, right? Give them what they came for. What they really want is to see houses. We just have to acknowledge that. We give them what they came for. So we've built some rapport, right? We've humanized the relationship. We've done step 2, which is we've gotten to motivation. We've got clear about what's important to them. Step 3, we've educated them about the market. We've prepared them for what it is that they need to know while they go into this process. And step 4, baby, we're going to give them what they came for. And what they come for, hey, I want to see some houses, man. Like, that's what I want to see. Awesome. So in step 4, we're going to do something real simple. We're simply going to get into what a lot of people jump right to right away. So what towns are you looking in? Tell me a little bit about the towns that you're looking in. Let's take a look at a few of them. And we're literally going to pull up the multiple listing service, whether we're on Zoom or we're on Google Chat or Google Hangout, or whether we're doing or Google Meet, or we're doing it in the office. We're going to pull up the MLS. And if you're meeting them in a coffee shop, you're going to flip your computer around and you're going to do a live MLS search right in front of them. You're going to do it together. You're going to pick the houses, and you're going to say what towns, and you pick a couple towns. How many bedrooms? This bedroom, that bedroom. Give me a rough idea on price. Have you done any research on price? Yeah, maybe this or this. Cool. Let's just set it up and let's see what happens. Boom, you're going to get a list of properties. Now, this is where you actually become a strategic salesperson versus just somebody out there running around chaotically doing stuff. At this moment in time, you're going to get to agreement with the person that there are some houses out there that they might want to see, right? Now, remember, maybe they called you because they wanted to see a property. Maybe they're just getting started because they don't even know where to start. But either way, step 4, you're giving them what they want. You're showing them some properties on interactive, and you're going to get agreement that there are a couple out there that they would like to go see. So you open up MLS and you start clicking through pictures. What do you think of this one? What do you think of this one? This looks like it meets your criteria. What do you think of this one? Until they say, thumbs up, that one looks really good. We'd like to go see that. Awesome. Love to see that one too. Let's take a look and see if there's any others. You go look. Oh, there's another one. Awesome. You'd like to see that one too? Great. Cool. You know what? Looks like we got 2 or 3 here. Why don't we do this? Why don't we set up a time that we can go take a look at all these properties together? I don't know if you're available, but Saturday at 2:00, I've got an opening to do some showings. We probably need to plan on about an hour to an hour and a half to get into all these properties. Would that work for you? Well, unfortunately, Saturday, we're going to a baby shower. Oh, well, I also am available Sunday morning before my open house. I'm going to be doing an open house at 1:00, but I'd be available from 10:30 until 11:30 or 10:30 to 12 before I start my open house. Would that work? Yeah, as a matter of fact, Sunday works great. Awesome. Let's get that on the books. We'll schedule that. Now you, professional real estate agent, at this moment in time, are going to get their email addresses because you're going to put a calendar invite in your phone. You're going to invite them to the appointment to go see houses. You're going to get their emails. It's going to go in there. You're going to invite them, and they're now going to have an automatic calendar invite to attend showings with you. You are also then going to confirm that time works, send them the invite, and then you're going to confirm, would you like me to set you up on an auto search on the MLS that meets this criteria? They're going to say yes. Remember, you just got their email addresses. You're going to take that. You're going to put it in the MLS or whatever system you use, whatever CRM you use to send auto alerts, because you need to have that, because that's, again, part of your value. That's part of your technology value proposition. You're going to set them up on an auto search live in person. And at that point in time, you confirm you're going to get every new listing as soon as it comes on that meets this criteria. As soon as you see something you want, I want you to shoot me a text, send me an email, and let me know that you want to see that property, and we'll get after arranging it. In addition, I'll plan on seeing you guys on Sunday at 10:30. I'll get you a confirmed list. Between now and Sunday, what I want you to do is go through all these properties that I just sent over to you on the MLS search, and I want you to pick out your top 5 or 10, and let's get kind of a pecking order together, and let's start working on what the most important properties are versus the least important. And that way, we're going to use our time most effectively. So super excited! I can't wait to see you guys on Sunday. Right? So, Chris, what did we just do there?
You gave them options. Like when I hear that, and when I've done that with clients, to let them know that you're not just going to show them one property, that you want to show them all the options that are out there that are possible. You've just opened up a whole new world to me. You've taken me from what was a tunnel vision on one property that might not even have been the best property, to setting it up to going, man, this guy's going to spend some time with me.
Well, we just went through this whole process, and now we're at the point where I'm giving them what they want, but not just one, but as many. I'm giving them the world, right? I'm saying, hey, we're going to go out and look at these. We're going to do it on Sunday, right? And now they're pumped, right? They're freaking pumped. They came in, they met some dude, random dude. They came in guarded. I don't know who this guy is. We humanized it pretty quickly. We went in, we got to motivation. We understood what was important to them. We educated them, which meant that we showed them that we're credible, that we can be trusted, that we actually know what we're getting into. We've given them validity about what it is that we provide. Then we gave them what they wanted. We set up an appointment. We opened up the doors for them to go and have a really great real estate experience. There's only one thing missing. There's only one thing missing. Well, now I just showed up to Home Depot, right? I bought an orange apron on Amazon. I showed up, I parked, I put it on, I went in, and I'm ready to stock shelves. But one thing has not happened yet. I have not actually been hired, have I? Nope, I have not been hired. No one has actually said officially, Matt, you're my realtor. And that is the reason that this has to happen right now, because you have set this up perfectly for that client to say, why would I hire anyone else? In fact, so much so, you already have an appointment set up with them. So, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, so Bob, so glad you came in. I hope this has been really valuable. The last thing we need to do before we part ways and I get ready to get stuff set up for you on Sunday is you do officially have to hire me. There is a standard of practice in the state of Connecticut that in order for me to provide professional representation services to you, you do have to hire me. Otherwise, I actually can't represent you, and I can't get you into all these properties that we want to go see because I'm not technically your realtor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide you with our buyer broker agreement. It is a standard agreement that everyone in the state of Connecticut uses by and large. A couple of tweaks and changes here. I just want you to review it. Once again, very standard agreement that just effectively hires me to be your representative inside of the transaction. If you have any questions or concerns, please be sure to let me know. Otherwise, I'll just be looking for you to get that signed between now and Sunday so that we can keep our appointment. Does that sound good? Yeah, that's great. Awesome. Fantastic. I'm going to email it to you right now. If there's anything else, if you have any questions between now and then, make sure you reach out to me. And here's the thing. Here's the best part. The best part of all of this is that no one ever says, I'm not going to hire you at that point, ever. When delivered effectively, there is no more objection, is there? We have nothing left to talk about, right? nothing left. So that is the 5-step consultation. Chris, any parting words, any parting pieces of advice, guidance?
I just think that you don't want to be so married to what you know. Just be more intentional about what other people want to know. Get to know them. That agreement just solidifies who you're going to be working with every day. And it gives you kind of a guideline to go by. I love the 5-step buyer consult. I love it for the listings as well. This is a great process that you gave us to follow.
Listen, the point of this is that you're making it easier. A lot of times we work with a lot of experienced agents when we either through coaching or some of our training, and sometimes when really experienced agents join the team and we show them how we deliver a consult. A lot of agents will say like, you know, I always do this. I just don't do it in this order the same way every time. I've been doing this for so long. I do this, you know, I'll do a little bit up front and then maybe I do some of it the second showing. And then sometimes I do this another time. And at the end of the day, like, we're just trying to get it all super clear so that the client is ready to be a really good client and we're ready to do a really great job, right? So, hey, listen, I can't thank you guys enough. Thank you to everybody who came. Thank you for all of your participation, Chris. I really appreciate you supporting me through this. And listen, tune in next week. Next week, we're going to talk about 6 strategic conversations. 6 strategic conversations. What are they? What could they be? I don't know. We're going to have to tune in next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. See you, everybody. Take care.